I would remind them of something that we said before in our conversation. I would remind them to honor the possibility that what they focus on is going to have a greater impact upon their life. So they're moving through a gateway, and they're moving into future potential, future possibilities. So they get to choose.
Há quem veja o invisível, há quem faça o impossível. Depois de tudo, alguma coisa vem dizer que tudo bem.
Welcome to the Menopause Retro Journeys. It's a series where I get together with women from all walks of life, and we get to go back to their menopause years and revisit that part of their lives with menopause eyes on. So we get to talk about the ups, the downs, the story. But what I'm really into is to get the little gems and extract the little bits of pockets of wisdom, and if possible, see we can find some new ways of being or what emerged after this important phase in a woman's life. And usually this is really good to do as a retro journey, looking back, connecting the dots, because when we're in it, it's actually more difficult to see. And so let's start. I'm your host, Ioanna Matsouli, the creator of the Menopause Codex. And today, my dear guest is Easula Seidlmaier. Welcome, Easula. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her so that you get an idea. So Easula, she's a beloved elder. She's actually around 74. How
74.
Yeah, and looking fabulous. She's a priestess, transformational coach, and quantum shamanic teacher with a global reach. She's an internationally published author. I think you wrote your books a lot in the German language, right?
Right.
And is certified as an intentional creativity coach. With her background in psychology and the creative arts, Easula brings her clients beyond the mental realm and into the dance between mind and feeling, leading them into a deeper knowing of themselves and a higher frequential expression of existence. She intuitively holds her clients in unconditional love as they navigate their life issues in a safe, non-judgmental space. Easula's shamanic tools allow her to lead her clients wherever they need to go in order to find healing, stability, and inner alignment. She guides her clients into the depths of their darkness and into their brightest radiance. Easula was born in the United States, fell in love with Europe, and currently resides in Munich, Germany with her family. She's fluent in German and English and works with clients all over the world. And I'm delighted to be with you today, Easula. It's such
so happy to be here with you too, my dear.
True honor. And this is a conversation between us. And I would like to it's a while back, I guess, for you to look back at your menopause years. But let's just go there and maybe you take us through a little bit before, in it, after, just to get how was it? How did she turn up? What was it that you remember as something significant around that time?
Okay, so like I would appreciate it if you would just, I will start off and you just help me,
course. Oh,
okay?
yeah, I will. Don't,
Because,
don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry.
you know,
I
this
mhm.
whole question of menopause and premenopause and all of that, it was just it was an expression of the flow of my life. It wasn't like, oh, I'm a mother, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and oh, what's this? Premenopause. Okay, it wasn't that at all. It was just fluid. It was a fluid transition within my life. And so I was invited when it started to show itself, and it didn't go bam, it came in subtly. And I was invited to manipulate, to navigate this change which was arising. And it started off basically, I was a woman who had regular menstruation, intense menstruation. I didn't suffer during my period. But it was intense. It was a lot of blood. It wasn't spotting. It wasn't, dabbling around. It was like whoosh, it was there, okay? And it was 5 days, okay? And so when this change started to come about, there were subtle changes, like it wasn't 5 days anymore. It was maybe 4 days, and it wasn't quite as heavy, but it still had its regularity. So for me, it was a change which was noticeable, but it came with an ease, okay? And yeah, like I said, I've just integrated it. It was integrated into my life. I have always been a working mother, wife, partner, woman, businesswoman, priestess, coach, whatever. I've always been active. And so this wasn't a phase in my life for somehow, drawing back or moving out of doing things. So I stayed in my space, in my field, and maintained this level of activity as these changes took place. And I remember in one of our conversations prior to this interview, I think I told you that when menopause really started to come in sort of like full force, and you were going through this hot and cold and sweating and not sweating, and oh, could you open the window? Oh, nobody else needs the window open, kind of thing. I lived that out. I didn't hold back or go, oh, you can't say anything, or whatever. I don't know, whatever else one could think, or oh, I can't accept that appointment because I might sweat or something. No, my life just continued. And if I went there and sweat, well, I went there and sweated, and we just had that on the table and had a brief exchange about it, and then was good.
I love what you're
Okay.
saying, because I think this is really important. Like the attitude and embracing these
Yeah,
changes, because it's something that's natural.
it's absolutely natural.
And it's also, what do you think is the importance of how these changes take place? How does it have to do with how intimate you are with your body, with your femininity, or with your yeah, if you are in good terms with your body, or if you are hating, or if you are disconnected? How was it for you, and how do you think this would affect?
Well, there are many sides to that question, of course.
Yeah.
Um, I think in general that this period of time is an unspoken invitation for us to check in. It sort of naturally happens. We start to check in, okay? Whether we want to or not, we start to check in. You know, my period's going to stop. Yeah, and that can trigger, it can help us to recall what are our definitions of being feminine, how much of a woman are you? If you're not in your moon cycles, okay? So these things start to sneak up in our dreams and through the magazines with fashion magazines that we look at, or our girlfriends who are perhaps not going through this yet or whatever. And it's like, well, like I'm moving away from the femininity, however I understood it, that I used to have. And what does that mean? And these are questions that maybe it's subconscious, but they raise their heads out of the darkness, out of the void, and there they are. Okay. And our bodies start to change. And the way we feel in our bodies start to change, and that's individual for each woman, depending on how her relationship was to her body in the beginning. And so I think that's the invitation that's there, and that's what comes to the table, and it's a chance, it's an opportunity.
I love what you're saying.
Yeah, because I mean, and I'll answer the other side of your question about how I experience it, but I witness it in other women and with other women. When we get to that point in our lives, if we are still in a relationship, a marriage or a relationship, however, a sexual relationship also, the way the relationship was many years ago when we got married is totally different than the way it is now, okay? And so it's not a minus, it's not a sin to check in and see, well, my body, and how do I feel in my body, and how is my sensuality and my sexuality, and what has changed, and to feel into, can I embrace that? Is that okay for me? Or am I still trying to stick behind, oh, we have to sleep with each other, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week to prove whatever, okay? Or can I let some of these things go because it's not my truth? Okay? Okay?
Totally.
And I mean, sexuality is also, okay, a total topic, right?
Totally.
Truth starts to arrive with its very sensitive head. Okay.
I like that you didn't call it ugly head.
With its
Yeah.
very sensitive head, more and more the more we get into our menopause, okay?
Yeah.
Truth starts to arrive in general, but especially in the bedroom, especially there.
It's
okay.
true.
Yeah.
So
So and so you asked me, what specifically was your question again? I've gotten off to a tangent.
it was how, because I mean, listening to you speak and knowing a little bit about you, you are connected to your body, and I think this helps for this transition to be smoother, because
Absolutely.
you call it an invitation. You don't call it symptoms, all this stuff. Your language is completely different. That speaks a lot, because it literally can change your experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It can be day and night, the same thing, the same.
Yeah. And as you speak to that, I think perhaps a part of the language that we use at that point of our life is the result of, and I have a visual right now, it was seeded in our teens when we first began to menstruate. Like, how was that experience? Did we have a ritual? Did we learn that that was okay? Did we learn that that's dirty? Was there nobody there that we could exchange with? Were we able to accept our body in that process? Okay. And however that was labeled and dealt with and covered up over, that was a seeding, and of course all the experiences that accumulated around that throughout life, which in our menopause or premenopause periods are going to bring forth a languaging which might be full of symptoms, or this is also oppressive and depressing, and this is really
Oh,
challenging.
yeah, and it's super interesting. How was it your menarche, the beginning?
Beautiful. It was beautiful. My mother took time and she prepared me for it, and she bought me what was necessary. Started off in those years, we had these, they called them Codex. They were like little pads. Okay, we didn't start off with tampons or something like that immediately, being very virginal. Okay, didn't start off with that. So, and she showed me how to do it, and I could talk with her about it, and it was no problem whatsoever. But the thing is that for my own story, um, in regards to my body, I was born in this female body, and at a very young age, I knew that I was a girl. I mean, I was conscious, even though I didn't have breasts yet. For some reason, of course, bringing in that knowledge, I was aware that I was female. And that had a special meaning to me. And I was very happy about it. And I was even at a very young age, before I had any breasts whatsoever, I was hoping and praying that I would have full breasts. Okay. So I always had full breasts.
Yay!
Size D, and then double D, and then E. Okay. So I was very in a very positive way with my body. And so when it finally got to the point that I started to menstruate and have my period, my mother and I were very open about my body, about my development, about getting a bra at some point, and dealing with my menstruation. So I was blessed by that.
Oh yeah, so like when you were talking about this, like I was thinking when I went to Brazil, like in 2000 and I don't know, 3, 4 by that time.
Mhm.
And so it's there is a thing, it is cultural as well, and it's also because you come from a Black American culture,
Mhm.
and there is something about the way you move, the way the way the hips and everything. I remember
Yeah.
when I went to Brazil, I
Yeah.
remember I was in the Northeast, and I
Mhm.
was like one of those like white girls, like I just couldn't move it, like
Move. Mhm.
and I did. I have felt like that was like, but it was like an initiation to
Mhm.
literally
Mhm.
in the curvy part of being a woman. It's so
Absolutely.
important. And I love Black culture. I mean, whatever you want to call it, for this very reason, it's
Yeah.
really embodied, and it's got
Yeah.
nothing to do with the shape of the
Mhm.
body. It's like how you inhabit it and how you
Yeah.
are in it. And what you
Exactly.
described, I think
Yeah.
that really is a nice
Yeah.
note.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure there is different experiences like in everything, but I just wanted to mention this because it's
Mhm.
you reminded me, and I unblocked something there, and
Mhm.
it's something that we don't foster that much in the more Western.
Mhm.
In the West is like more, we're more up in the head, and we do
Mhm.
disconnect, and it's it's
And
quite.
you see that in the different dance forms that Blacks have, that Spanish have, that more the Southern kinds of cultures have, that the hips and the body and the belly dance and all of this part of the body is involved. And so there's a total different um, there's a total different integration. There's a total different dance between spirit and body when you have these options of beingness, these options of expression, these options of doingness. Yeah.
Yeah, and even in mentioning it is really important to mention it. Even in Arabic cultures, the belly dancing. I mean,
Exactly.
hello,
Hello.
it's totally, and it's so good for the womb. It's so
Absolutely.
good for all this area, even the toning,
Mm-hmm.
even there is, you work on muscles in such a musical dancing way that you can have fitness, but you can have the feminine way of doing it. And I think these cultures, you know, these are traditions as well as like that. These are some of the very good things that we pass on from mother to daughter, right? From woman to woman.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, I want to go to the part that you mentioned, the rite of passage. Because you are a priestess, right? And it's an initiation, menopause. And we spoke a lot about how it's how it was seeded this in the beginning. And I was actually having a connection call with this woman, and it's just this morning actually, and I just realized that when you nowadays I think the young girls, they get initiated in a much better way, and there's a lot more out there, and it's still, you know, under progress, but it would be so beautiful when you start your period to also be told that this is a part of your life, a cycle that is going to have an end, which is menopause. Imagine how precious this is to know that it's not infinite. I'm not gonna, you know, because when you get your cycle, it's quite a thing still, even if you receive it in the best possible way. It is more, you know, you have to adjust the beginning of the starting of the engine of everything. Like we have to adjust at how it stops gradually. So, yeah, please. I don't know.
Well, that was one of the positive experiences or reactions that I had when I noticed, oh, you are entering. It was almost like, let me find a metaphor. It was almost like, it was almost like, okay, you're entering this space, truly this like space. You're entering this space of change, and that's menopause. Your body's going to change. It means you're losing something. And my reaction was, oh, well, like, thank God. I've had my period for so long, and I've done it so intensely, okay? And I've brought through 2 children, okay? And you know, like, that's a relief. That's where I originally responded to it. I saw it as something that I didn't have to do anymore, which opened up more space and more energy for whatever. I recognized it as a loss. Okay, that's something I'm not doing anymore. Okay, or my body's not doing anymore. And at the same time, I chose to see that as, wow, okay, I don't have to buy. I can stop having tampons here and there in my purse and in that bag when I travel and over here and over there, and sometimes have to ask a friend, do you have a tampon with you? Okay, I can stop doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Totally.
yeah.
And it's so was this something that when you, from what you said, it sounds like that you embraced it, and this going from the loss to the it was rather fast in your psyche. It can take longer, right?
Of course.
It can take much longer to process your loss and process everything that comes with the fact that fertility comes to an end. And it's I think for each woman this is and you need to review
Yes.
and go back and do and it depends like my experience, like just starting my period was not as good as yours. But over the years, I've worked on it and I've looked at it and I've processed a lot of stuff and I've kept what I wanted to keep and the rest through.
Let it go. Yeah.
It's obsolete. There's stuff we don't need to carry on taking with us. You only keep the
the jewels. I think that's what menopause is truly, from a shamanic viewpoint also. That's what it's truly about. It's about going through this gateway.
Yeah.
Of leaving that identification, of honoring it at the gateway for all it has been for you, done for you, for the role it has played in your life, for the children it's brought forth, for the beautiful sexual context you've had and all that juiciness, okay? That's at the gateway, to honor that, and to honor that you are now moving on into another phase of your life. And what life is inviting you to do is to interact with life itself in a different way. For me, in a more expanded way, but for each woman, for each person, it will be different. In any case, in a different way. Okay. And this different way has nothing left, it has nothing more to do, shamanically speaking, going through this gateway, has nothing more to do with mothering. Okay. I mean, it doesn't mean we stop being a mother, but this bodily mothering and, giving of the breast and everything, it has nothing more to do with the kind of sexuality that we had during those years, because that also fulfilled many functions. Okay, many functions of finding our own identity, of finding the right partner, in order to have the children, whether you looked at it genetically or whether you looked at it as a family, or regardless of how you looked at it. Okay. And now as we go through the gateway, we move into a sovereignty. And at this gateway, once we get through it, then we start to realize more and more, I can decide now, I can choose more freely, because I'm not so intertangled physically, bodily, as I was before, okay? I'm not so intertangled. I can choose more freely of, how I want to be sexually, how I want to be as a woman. I'm beyond all of the fashion illustrations, blah, 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 whatever there is out there that's saying you do this, you do that, this is hip, this is not hip, this is whatever it is, okay? And I've moved on into another ball game where other values are there, either for me to discover or for me to live.
Totally.
Because I'm carrying them in me, and they can now be brought forth. So go ahead.
So I have two questions. One was, what are some of those for you that came forth? And another one was, my question was, did you have the need, how did you mark this passage for yourself, you with you, or with others, or did you do something that was meaningful for you? I mean, I did my stuff, but it can be completely in the private. It can be something. Was there something that you said, okay, I need to honor this. This is like a shift. Everything that you mentioned, but just symbolically, or even you with yourself, it's not necessary to have done this, but it's a question that arises. Yeah.
Well, I have lived my life very consciously intertwined with my body. In younger years, I did training as a dancer, as a ballet dancer, as a flamenco dancer, as a whatever dancer, okay? So I also had that on top of whatever else was going on, okay? So I have lived my life very consciously intertwined with my body. Why am I saying this? Because for me, there was no necessity to do something special. I'm a person who there's certain traditions or rituals, so standard rituals that I do not engage in. For example, birthdays. I don't celebrate my birthday. My children, yes. My husband, if he wants it, and he usually does, yes. Okay. My mother-in-law, my this, my yes. But I don't celebrate my birthday. Why? Is it not important? Hell yes. I celebrate my birthday every fucking morning. Okay. So, and that's the most important thing to me. Okay. That's more important than anything else. So if you live with that kind of curation, conscious curation, then I was constantly consciously dancing with this change in my body, dancing with my my unfolding sovereignty within the context of my work, my relationship, my mothering, my children. I raised children. The whole time I was raising my children, I said to myself, I'm raising my children so that they can be independent and be prepared to live their own lives. I know they're going to leave me. I want them to leave me. Not because I want to get rid of them, because I know that is what they need to do. Okay. So this, I'm just speaking to that as an example. This was a constant, ongoing process for me. So by the time we got to that point where my daughter wanted to go to college in USA, it was not a problem for me. My friends were freaking out. Oh, aren't you going to miss them? Oh, it's going to be so hard. Thousands of stories. No, I've been preparing this, maybe as of 3 years old. Okay, we've been preparing. So I have this kind of stance and attitude in life of an ongoing process of observation, of interaction, of knowingness. And so when it comes up to it, it's like no big deal, right? I mean, sure, it's a big deal, but I've been preparing for it the whole time. And so there's a grace that arrives. It doesn't mean that everything is super positive or that, there were a few lectures that I gave. I mean, the sweat was dripping down. I had done my hair all nice, put my makeup on. When I looked at myself in the mirror after the lecture, I looked like a raccoon. Fine, okay. Here, my eyeliner was hanging down here. Yeah, I mean, so what? Okay.
I know. No, that's beautiful. And I think what the key thing to what I receive from you is the increment, and it's like having this constant reflection, but in your everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you say about the sovereignty. I mean, sovereignty is a big is so important, and it's from this place that we really are more in our power. And obviously, when you go more in your second half, say, let's say after 50 of your life, and this it's like your sovereignty, I think, comes and knocks on your door and says, okay, Are we doing it,
Yeah.
or right? It's super important. And I think most women come face to face with this, but then it seems like it's something that you have to sort out with the exterior, but it's an internal job, right?
It's an inner job. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 So that's why I did, to answer your question, there was no explicit ritual that I did. That was just something that, happened from day to day, from one possibility to the next. If there was some situation in my life, whatever it was, it didn't matter what, whether it was in business or private, during menopause, well, I practiced sovereignty. I practiced stepping out of this, it's like this contractedness, okay, of trying to fulfill the expectations and wishes of the person who's sitting across from you, right? I stepped out of that. Okay, I was not doing that anymore. I didn't do it anyway. I didn't do it anyway. Having been born in the United States and leaving the environment in which I grew up in and coming over to Europe and to Germany, I had like free space to be and do, because they didn't expect certain things of me, because they knew I was not of their culture. So I had been doing that the whole time. And therefore, my story is certainly different than for many people who've grown up here, who are German or who've grown up in Spain and Spanish or Portugal and Portuguese or whatever. Okay. And so this topic of sovereignty has been in my life for a long time, in different flavors and different colors and different options.
Yeah, and I think what you described, the fact that you left that everything that was in the way of this, that's a classic gift, I think, of menopause. I think that's something that is very most women at one level or another engage with this, and in a rough way or in a more elegant way, and then it kind of smooths out. But there is certainly something that we go back to ourselves, and
Absolutely.
it's really like going in, huh?
Yeah, that's the big chance that we have. If we can realize that, if we can see not only maybe the negative sides, and I'm changing, and my skin's not the way it used to be, and just concentrating on all the things that are moving away, start to also look at what's opening up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's trying to present itself as potential.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I want to go to the part that we call creativity, and because that's how we met.
Yes.
We met in Oslo, right? It was in conference, and it was at the town hall, right? With
yes,
some
exactly.
champagne, and I just
yes,
went around, and we just started instantly talking.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we were talking about Egypt and everything, and then you literally came. I need to say this. You're an amazing mentor, because you just you are a coach of this beautiful technique called intentional creativity that I would like to speak a bit about, and tell me how. Maybe one question regarding menopause is if you felt that your creativity, if there was a shift in your creativity afterwards, so if there was, it was more embodied, more um, enhanced.
Yeah.
I think it's something that is true, but because you're in it, maybe you didn't see it, but I'm just asking the question to see if this would be.
Well, yes, and it's a beautiful question, because it feels so, to me, your question feels so soft and so gentle and so virginal almost. Okay. In my background,
Thank you.
in my background, I had been working with color as a color consultant in regards to clothes, what colors suit you best, okay? This 4-season color consultant method, but I had transformed that even thousands of years ago when it first came across to Europe. I had expanded that system into a higher level of weaving in your psyche. So, like, what does your spirit need? What is your spirit? What is the energy that your spirit is communicating? What are you know, like, who are you, and what are you needing, plus what your body is responding to? Okay, so I had already danced with that. Okay, I was already creative there. And then much later, I got to contact Shiloh Sophia, who's the one who has brought intentional creativity really forward. And that was per chance through different other channels online. I got somehow, a newsletter or something like that, and it spoke to me. Yeah, and so I did one of her courses, and when I understood what she was offering, I had already been in my coaching, I had already been working with people expressing different things by drawing things, stuff like that, or we use different objects to show things, or we built things to visualize, to feel what we were dealing with on a mental and spiritual level. And when I met intentional creativity and did the course, it was like, wow, okay.
It's true.
It was wow, okay. This, because many times for oneself and for others, you address certain topics in your life and you can't find the words. You can't find the words. But you can choose a color intuitively without thinking.
That's so good.
Intuitively, you can make a form intuitively, okay? And then that's like a point of reference in which we can then engage and discover even more, okay?
I have so many things to say. What you said is number one, we work together, so I have on this.
You have firsthand
It
experience.
is quite interesting that the way I went into menopause, or the way I describe it, is like you immerse yourself in the menopause waters, and there's this aquatic sense. It's like going in your underworld, but you just go for a dive in yourself and then come out. So my first code is called Come Home, because you just dive in, going home, and then coming out 12 codes later is Go Creative. And at the back of each code, I associate it with some inspiration. So in the Go Creative, I do introduce this creative from my own experience with you. And I must say, it's incredible, because when we work together, it's the only time in my life that I went really aquatic. And I remember, the first time, remember when we did the thing where you turn your canvas, you said, pour some paint, and this dolphin appeared. It was like I could have never done
Dreamed
this.
that.
This was just turning the canvas around and then looking at it. That was memorable. Then the second time, it was this, it was inside some cosmic womb. It was so deep. We went so deep. You are an amazing guide and teacher. And like you said, the space, everything that you said in the beginning, your bio, is truly that. And that was like the song of, it was like the song, the whale song, my song, my part of the song of creation. That was disconnected, and we were like mending it and connecting back. And I remember doing the movements, and this completion filling inside. And the last one was so aquatic. It was like literally, we had to put, what was it? It was in Munich, the last one. It was
Yeah.
put, it's like a collage, like get out of from magazines. And I remember
Yes.
a bit stuck on, well, yeah, on the German part sometimes, if you, because I just couldn't read. I didn't know what German meant. And but then I remember I looked at it and it was like everything I put on, all the, how can you do this? It's like
Mhm.
everything, when I looked at it, looked as if it was in, you know, when you put
Mm.
cloths in the water and you
Yes.
make
Yeah.
that movement,
Swimming back and forth. Yeah.
that
Mhm.
was captured on everything I'd put on. And then
Mhm.
this mermaid, whatever energy came
Came
out,
forth.
came forward.
Yeah.
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 And you're definitely a doula for me for this, because it's like three experiences.
Yeah.
And in many ways, menopause, to me, it feels like going in a, there's a lot of fire that
Mhm.
burns and purges,
Mm. Yeah.
but there is this water energy that is so
Mhm.
present in menopause. Everything we said that, and
Of
then the
course.
way to be with it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Be in this dance
In
and
this flow and this dance. Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
beautiful. And I
Mhm.
am so grateful. Like, this has been, oh,
Yeah. It
yeah.
is. It's an amazing process, and it's it's never the same. It's different every time. It's different with every group. It's different with every person. It's, it's something it's not static. And that's something that people who go this path with intentional creativity, and especially people who work with me, um, have to learn. They don't have to do anything, but it would be good if they would learn to understand that perfectionism, we come from a culture, not only our culture, but the Western culture, where perfectionism and, doing it the right way, etc., and perfect and stuff, that's so narrowing and so reductive. And basically, my understanding of perfectionism is the way we as humans understand something which is perfect. In order for something to be perfect, you have to have a standard of measurement. Okay? And if you don't have the standard of measurement, then you don't know whether it's right or wrong, or are we finished, or are we done, or does it need a little more, a little less? And so if you have a standard of measurement for something to be perfect, that means that this thing, whether it's a picture or a machine or whatever, or a text, okay, whatever it is, has to adhere to this standard, which is like death. There's
Hey,
nothing,
did you feel the thing? It was like,
yeah, there's nothing in nature that is not in some form in motion and dynamic.
yeah.
Okay. And so in intentional creativity, each person, at least at my side or under my care, who engages in it will learn to release this addiction to perfectionism. Okay. And that's part of our journey through menopause, because weren't we the ones who tried to be the people pleasers to fulfill this because that was the standard that that person had? Well, for a birthday cake, you can't bake that kind of cake. Okay, well, like,
We do from now on.
where's that written? Well, we never did that before. Okay, right. So here we are running behind all of these, what you do and what you don't do, and that's not quite right, and you didn't quite, hit the target. And we're finally, when we're in menopause, we're able to put that crap beside and to re-examine it and to choose anew. I'm done.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Well, yeah, so if we've got 2 minutes to
Yeah, to round out.
yeah, to round up. If you had menopausal women next to you right now, what would be a couple of things to say, just coming as it is right now?
I would remind them of something that we said before in our conversation. I would remind them to honor the possibility that what they focus on is going to have a greater impact upon their life. So they're moving through a gateway, and they're moving into future potential, future possibilities. So they get to choose. So it's like maybe not about the way it was or what I used to do and the way it's always been. And my husband, my daughter, always. No, we're going through the gateway, right? Okay.
I love it.
And be aware of what you're focusing on.
It's so true.
Because that's what you're calling in. And then you don't have to be surprised if you go, oh my God, I thought about this time in my life, I would be over that. Well, if I'm still focusing on it, it's difficult to get over it.
Yeah.
So those would be my last words for our conversation today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I could
Thank
talk
you
with you
so much
for hours. And we
for
will talk
inviting me.
again.
Yes,
And
definitely.
yeah, that was delicious. And
Okay. For me too. Thank you so much. And I hope it was helpful for those who listen in.
I do.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Mm.